Some years we do this trends video and it's about creative formats that are rising in popularity. Other years it's about the shifting sands of social, and that is this year. Though the last trend on this list will be dedicated to content advice. I've got 7 trends overall to discuss, and they are all summarized in a cheat sheet that you can download, linked in the description. And let's start with number 1, supply versus demand. Right now on Meta platforms specifically, the supply of posts being published by creators is outpacing the demand for those posts from users. How do we know this? Well, because the head of Instagram, Adam Mosseri, said this point blank on Threads in the second half of last year. Quote, "It is the hardest thing for us. We want creators to reach as many people as possible, but there's way more content than the average person could see each day, even just looking at content from accounts they follow," end quote. So what does this mean for us? Well, you can think of this like the real estate market. Sometimes you have a buyer's market, sometimes it's a seller's market. And depending on those external market forces, the exact same home can have dramatically different valuations. Similarly, you could create a post in 2026 that would have performed exceptionally for your church in 2023, but that identical post this year could see a very different outcome. So don't take it personally. The key is to set yourself up for success in this kind of social media climate. Here's how to do that. And it brings us to trend number 2, post more. I get it. This advice doesn't exactly reek of tactical precision, but really is the best advice right now. And let me show you what I mean. This is a screenshot from a church's social accounts that we've been working on. And what you're seeing are their overall impressions increasing by more than 100% in the span of a month, which is really good, right? Reaching twice as many people as before. That's what we want. How did we achieve this? Simply by publishing roughly twice as much content for this church as they were on their own in the previous month. Now, I get it. This is probably not the advice that you want to hear. Publish more? I barely have enough time. As it is, here's the secret to doing this sustainably, which is also trend number 3. Repost your winners. What I want you to do is audit your social media posts over the past couple of years and to identify the best performers. And then just republish those exactly as is, or create posts that follow the identical format if some of the creative needs updating. Got a sermon clip from 18 months ago that did really well? Publish it again. The wisdom of Scripture is for all people for all time, so it doesn't matter that that clip is not from last week. From a social standpoint, you can rest assured you will not be penalized for this. In fact, it's one of the best ways to post because it saves you time and you can be confident the post will do well because you've already identified it as a top performer. To make a point, look at my Instagram here. The final 6 posts of 2025 that I published were all reposts, and every one of them got more than 1 million views. The one that didn't, 500,000 views. Not bad. And you can find me at Brady Shearer on Instagram, by the way. Now, I mentioned views there. Why? Well, because it is the metric that I am focused the most on in 2026. To be specific, views per day, which is trend number 4. And let me show you a few examples of this. Here are reports from my 2 YouTube channels over the past 90 days. The first channel has 10,000 subscribers and has received about 1,000 views per day, because 95,000-ish views divided by 90 days is roughly 1,000. The second channel has 160,000 plus subscribers. That's this channel. And that's received about 2,000 views per day. Now, what do these numbers mean in context? Well, the channel with 16 times more subscribers has just 2 times more daily views. What's the point of all this? For me, I have obsessed over the performance of each individual post and video in the past. But in this era, I need to accept that some content just won't perform well. By focusing on views per day, I can fix my attention on a metric that reflects my combined efforts and is not prone to the ups and downs of each individual post. This will give me a more accurate picture into the health of my social accounts and give me the freedom to not obsess over each individual post. This new reality also reflects an important truth that we all need to come to terms with. Followers don't matter. And this has been true for a little while on the big 4 social platforms of Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. On TikTok, it was always true, but it's becoming even more prevalent. Just look at these numbers from my Instagram account over the final quarter of 2025. 90% of views coming from non-followers. I have never seen anything like that. And I'm not suggesting this will be true to this extent for your church, but the point remains, you and I are not entitled to the real estate on our followers' feeds anymore. So what's the fallout of this? Well, I wouldn't suggest posting your 21 days of prayer graphic to start the year every day on your IG and expect your followers to see it. That's just not how distribution on social is working right now. Instead, every post needs to focus on the intersections of faith and culture and reaching as broad of an audience as possible. Social is a springboard. And thankfully, we have a huge advantage here as churches because the wisdom of Scripture is for all people for all time, like I said earlier in this video. And we have senior leaders creating content for us every week in the form of sermons. So we have all we need. But if we're publishing content in 2026 for a social media landscape that no longer exists, our effectiveness is going to suffer. Now, in light of all of this, you might be thinking to yourself, man, like, what's even the point of publishing anymore? It sure was nicer when my followers would just see my stuff. Yeah, I get it. But just because social media isn't how it used to be doesn't mean it doesn't still have immense value for our churches, which brings us to trend number 6, content equals credibility. This is the easiest way for you to make sense of social's value to your church in 2026 because your website used to be the front door for your church. And while it still functions in that way, people are heading to your Instagram and other social profiles just as much. Because here's how it works. People will visit an organization's Instagram and social pages to essentially evaluate its credibility. And a lack of current content is taken as a red flag for most. So having an active social presence today matters for 3 reasons. Number 1, reaching our existing congregation. Yes, it still happens, just less so than in previous years. Number 2, introducing our churches to people for the first time. Most of the content that we see on our feeds comes from accounts that we did not choose to follow, meaning people are seeing your church's content for the first time, and we get that distribution for free on social, which is amazing. But there is a third audience that is becoming more and more important, and I'd say is the most overlooked by churches, which is people evaluating your ministry. They choose to visit your profiles of their own volition. And what do they see? Remember, content equals credibility. But what kind of content? And that's our final trend. Sermon content plus photos of church life. These are the 2 buckets of content necessary for every church. Why am I so confident in this? One of my core axioms for social ministry is the principle of congruency. Simply put, your online presence should be a genuine reflection of your in-person experience. Creative formats can and will change, but I want to see repurposed sermon content on your page. Why? Well, because that's the biggest chunk of a Sunday service. So to not have that on your social pages would be strange. It'd be like a restaurant not having pictures of the food that they serve. Functionally, sermon content means I can be introduced to your lead pastor, get a feel for your church's theology, along with a bit of your ministry's personality. And then photos of church life to give me an instant feel for what it would be like to attend your church in person, on campus. Now, every week we work with churches one-on-one doing exactly this. If you'd like to book a call with me to explore working together, socialsermons.com is where to do that. That call will be with me directly. We also have a small number of scholarships available for churches in 2026. So if you're passionate about social and care about it in your church, but finances are tight, let me know. We can discuss options. Socialsermons.com is where to get started. Yes, we are moving into a new era of social, but the opportunity is as great as ever. It just looks a bit different. Use these 7 trends as your navigation tools to make sure that you're focusing on what matters. And again, you can download the cheat sheet that summarizes all of them for handy reference in the description below. And thanks as always for your time, attention, and trust. Talk to you soon.